What's going on, guys? It's Mitch of the Bottom Line View here, back with another top 10 for the NFL Top 100 series on the Bottom Line View. Today, it's going to be the top 10 running backs going into 2016. Just to refresh your memory, it's going to be how they did last season and the 2015 NFL season, and then how I think that will transition into the next season, 2016. So here we go. Here are the top 10 running backs of 2016. At number 10, I have a guy that solidified himself as a top tier back this season, and that is Latavius Murray of the Oakland Raiders. Murray played 16 games this year, had 266 attempts, ran for over 1,000 yards with 6 touchdowns and a 4.0 yards per carry. He also is quite versatile in the pass game. He caught 41 balls for 232 yards, and he only fumbled the ball 4 times. So Murray, I think, overall, he's a pretty versatile back. He's a bigger back. He can pose a threat because he's big, strong, and he is fast. He has breakaway speed. He's going to be an important key cog to that Oakland offense for years to come. And I really like what I saw from Latavius Murray this past season. So that's why I have him at number 10 going into next year. At number 9, I have arguably the shiftiest running back in the game, Mr. Shady McCoy, LeSean McCoy. Shady started 12 games this past season. He did miss 4 because of an injury. He ran 203 times, 895 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground, a 4.4 yards per carry, 32 receptions for 292 yards, 2 touchdowns, and only 2 fumbles. McCoy didn't get a huge workload this season. Last year, as an Eagle, he got a pretty big workload. But this year in Buffalo, he split a lot of time, and he didn't get a lot of red zone attempts due to the lack and the share of carries in Buffalo. But he still had a really respectable 4.4 yards per carry. He's a guy that can catch the ball, and he's dangerous every single time he gets the ball in his hands. That's what I really like about Shady. He might go sideways a little bit, he might go backwards, but occasionally he's going to break a 40-yard run, he's going to break a big play in the pass game, in the screen game. He's a really dangerous player, and that's why I have McCoy at number 9. At number 8, I have the new class of the bruising back, and that is Mr. Chris Ivory, who is now a Jacksonville Jaguar, but who played on the Jets this past season. He played 15 games, although he only started 14 because he was pretty banged up towards the end of the season. 247 attempts, a healthy dose, over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns on the ground with a 4.3 yards per carry, 30 receptions through the air, a little bit more than expected for a bruising back, 217 yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 fumbles. Ivory, I really like. He can break a ton of tackles. He's a guy that can catch the ball, for a guy his size. And I think that when the Jets started to lose games at the end of the season, I think a lot of this had to do with because Chris Ivory was hurt. He was their offense. He was the consistency in that offense. If they weren't able to run the ball in New York, they weren't going to have that success through the air. So I think Chris Ivory is going to have some success in Jacksonville because they can open it through the air and then run it with him. He's not going to have to be the number 1 guy all of a sudden. You have Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns, a good passing game with Blake Bortles over there in Jacksonville. So if Chris Ivory can continue his good play from last year and bring that into Jacksonville, I think this Jaguars offense could be scary. So I think Ivory's going to have another good year next year, barring injury, so I have him at number 8 on the list. Number 7 may come a little bit as a shock to some people, but if you see this guy play, you can truly appreciate that he is one of the top and most versatile running backs in the game today. Mr. Mark Ingram, one of my favorite guys in the NFL. He only started 10 games this year, but he played in 12. He had 166 attempts for 769 yards, 6 touchdowns on the ground, a 4.6 yards per carry, and get this, he caught 50 balls for 405 yards. He had over 1,000 yards in only 10 games started. That's pretty impressive. Mark Ingram is asked to do it all in New Orleans. He was the number one option, the number one threat on the New Orleans Saints offense last year. Drew Brees went to him often for checkdowns, and they didn't really have much of a passing attack in terms of wide receivers on the outside this year. Drew Brees really had to do it a lot on his own with Brandon Cooks, and Mark Ingram picked up a ton of slack in that regard, and he was also able to put up a healthy 4.6 yards per carry, a very good 4.6, and also 6 touchdowns on the ground. So Mark Ingram is number 7 going into the 2016 season. Number 6, one of the best running backs in the last few years now, Jamaal Charles. He's only at 6 because, let's be honest, he did not play enough games this past season to warrant a top 5 position. But overall, Jamaal Charles, I think, is still an elite back, a guy that had a 5.1 yards per carry, which is anything over 5 or around 5 is pretty darn impressive. Jamaal Charles started 5 games. He ran 71 attempts, 364 yards with that 5.1 average, 4 touchdowns, and caught 21 balls for 177 yards and a touchdown. He did have, though, 3 fumbles on the season in 5 games. And that was a problem that the Chiefs couldn't overcome early in the season. That's another reason why he doesn't rank in the top 5 this year. But Jamaal Charles, overall, one of the most electrifying running backs we've seen in the past decade or so. A guy that has consistently put up amazing numbers, 1,000 yards consistently. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's utilized to his strengths in the Kansas City offense, and if he comes back healthy, I think Jamaal Charles will once again be a top 3 running back in the NFL. On this list, I have him at number 6. At number 5, I think a guy that nobody really realized how much talent he really has, and that's Devonta Freeman from the Atlanta Falcons. 15 games this year, 13 started with Tavon Coleman getting some of the starts at the beginning of the year. Freeman ran for 265 attempts, over 1,000 yards with 11 touchdowns. He found the end zone 11 times and then 3 through the air for a 4.0 yards per carry. Only 3 fumbles on the year. And get this, 73 receptions. 73 catches out of the backfield for 578 yards and, like I said, 3 touchdowns. So Devonta Freeman, he's a beast all around. Him and Julio run that Atlanta Falcons offense, and he's going to be a staple in it for years to come. Freeman really proved that he can be a top 5 running back in the league. I expect just as good, if not better, numbers from him next year, as I think the Falcons will progress, and I think that Freeman will get even better. So Freeman is at number 5, best running backs for 2016. Number 4, the muscle hamster, Doug Martin. This guy had a down year the year before. He had an amazing rookie season, but this year he was back. A lot of people expected him to be back. He had a great offseason, and it really showed. He got a new quarterback, and it helped him out. Doug Martin played all 16 games this year, ran for 288 attempts, over 1,400 yards with a 4.9 average on the ground, 6 touchdowns, 33 receptions for 271 yards, a touchdown receiving. He did have 5 fumbles, but this guy ran the ball 288 times. It's kind of expected that he's going to put the ball on the ground a couple times in a year. But Doug Martin, man, he powered the Bucs to win a few of these games this year. Martin's a guy I really like. I think he's one of the best guys at pure running the football. He's a small guy, but his muscle hamster nickname is not a lie. The guy is a strong, stocky dude. He'll run you over. He'll beat you with quickness. And Doug Martin is an outstanding running back that I expect to be very good for the next few years. So Doug Martin is number 4 on the list. Number 3, Mr. Todd Gurley. Now, this guy's expected to become the best running back in the NFL and surpass Mr. Adrian Peterson in the coming years. Last year, he started 12 games, had 229 attempts for 1,100 yards, a 4.8 average on the ground, and 10 touchdowns. He found the end zone 10 times in 12 games, and he was really the Rams' offense. The guy would carry the ball 25 times a game, and he was the only way that the Rams were going to score points. Let's be honest. They did not have a quarterback. They don't have receivers. They really did not have anything on offense other than Todd Gurley. And he's been going to power them to some wins in the coming year because, to be honest, the Rams have gotten even worse in the offseason. It will be interesting to see how Todd Gurley progresses into year 2, whether he will take a step back or whether he will take a step forward. But everyone fully expects him to become the best running back in the league, and I think he has the potential to do so. If there's one area that he really lacks, I think it's catching the football out of the backfield and in blocking situations. I think he could become a better third down back in that sort of area, but other than that, I think Todd Gurley, strictly running the ball, is one of the top 2 or 3 running backs in the NFL heading into next year. Number 2, and could have been number 1 without the injuries, and he's been injured for the last couple years now. We've seen such potential to be the greatest running back in the league. Mr. LeVeon Bell from the Pittsburgh Steelers, a key cog, a primetime playmaker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. LeVeon Bell played 6 games, had 113 attempts for 556 yards, a 4.9 average on the ground with 3 touchdowns, and a 2.7 yards per game, which ranked him second in the league. He had 24 receptions for 136 yards. This guy, LeVeon Bell, can do just about everything. He's shown that he can block. He's shown that he can run the ball with the best of them. He's shown that he can catch the ball with the best of them. He's shown that he can make guys miss. He's shown that he can run guys over. He can even hurdle guys. LeVeon Bell is one of the most athletic running backs we've seen in a long time, one of the most versatile running backs we've seen over the last few years. And he has everything, every single skill and ability to become the best running back in the NFL in this next season. Number 1 is one of the greatest running backs in NFL history. You got to give it up for Mr. All-Day, Adrian Peterson. Adrian continues to power the Vikings into the playoffs. 327 attempts. 327 for almost 1,500 yards, leading the league in that category, with a 4.5 yards per carry, not so bad for 327 attempts, 11 touchdowns, and the league leading 92.8 yards per game. He did put the ball on the ground 7 times, and that has been a problem in Adrian Peterson's career throughout his career, and I think that's maybe held him back from being even higher in the greatest running backs conversation. But Adrian Peterson is for sure one of the greatest running backs of all time. He is in my top 10. He is arguably top 5, and I think he's still the best running back in the league. He's not the most versatile. He's not going to line up on the outside as a receiver and catch the ball down the field, but the dude is going to run past you and he's going to run you over. And Adrian Peterson's the most dangerous running back in the NFL still. So, Adrian Peterson is the best running back in the NFL. Alright guys, so that's been my top 10 running backs going into the 2016 season. An honorable mention for this list has to be Matt Forte, who is now a New York Jet and a former, of course, Chicago Bear. I really love Matt Forte's game. The only thing keeping him from this list was probably his age. Just seeing as how I think he'll probably take a step back next year. He took a little bit of a step back this year and has got a little bit dinged up over the last couple years. I just don't think he's going to be able to last as a top-tier running back that much longer in the NFL. But that being said, I have Adrian Peterson as the best, LeVeon Bell second, Todd Gurley third, Doug Martin fourth, Devonta Freeman fifth, Jamaal Charles sixth, Mark Ingram seventh, Chris Ivory eighth, LeSean McCoy ninth, and Latavius Murray number 10. I hope you guys enjoyed this top 10 running backs of 2016. It's Mitch of the Bottom Line View. Make sure you check out the rest of the Bottom Line View's top 100 NFL players. All right, guys, if you liked the video, don't be afraid to hit that like button. And if you're new, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks. It's Mitch from the Bottom Line View. Peace.